Most movie producers typically have massive amounts of literary material submitted to them on a daily basis. They have to read and make decisions on. It's a lot of work. And they have to somehow squeeze this in between all the other stuff they do, like developing and producing what they already have on their studio slate. So anything you can do to make their life easier is going to be welcomed. And a little 22-page booklet with pretty pictures is quicker than a 120-page screenplay. So I'm actually going to ask the panelists, guys, what do you think? Are the movie studios obsessed with pre-branded stuff today? Have original scripts gone completely out of style? Is it easier for a writer to sell a comic book than a script?
Yeah, I mean, I could say from my experience, we have agents that are coming to us now with scripts that they've tried to sell as scripts unsuccessfully, so now they're bringing those same writers back to us, trying to partner with us to do graphic novels. I mean, probably a third of the projects that Radical has in development are things that were written for film first, and now we're kind of revising it to make it a graphic novel and to see how that floats. I mean, they kind of use it as a test balloon, you know? I mean, you put it into this graphic novel form, and if people like it in the graphic novel form, then yeah, like you said, they could be willing to take a flyer on it as a film. Or if it bombs in graphic novel form, then they probably would think, oh, well, I'm glad we didn't, you know, spend $10 million on that. Would have been a mistake. But also the other thing is controlling your own IP. I mean, that's what everybody is into these days, because that's where the long-term money is. I mean, if you sell a screenplay to somebody, they're buying the screenplay from you, and it's gone. If you make a comic book and control it, then they're basically just optioning the rights to make a film of your comic. If they want to make a video game with it, if they want to do anything with it, that's all part of the deal. You know, I mean, you're selling all your rights separately. So it's a whole, it's a bigger pie that you're dealing with, and you have a much better chance of keeping control over your property. And I mean, they're always going to change it. I mean, they're always going to. You probably will end up being somewhat unhappy with the final product. You know, I mean, well, you can count on one hand how many comic book movies turned into were comics that were good first.
Well, and to David's point that I mean, Hollywood can take your project and kill it.
Yeah, yeah, they could buy it and shelve it.
The bottom line is you just have the advantage. If you sell the screenplay, they're going to they're going to pay you $80,000, $100,000, and you're going to sign over every part of that screenplay. The studios are thinking ahead. So the bottom line is if you do the comic book ahead of time, you just sit in a much better position when negotiating starts.
Yeah, in Hollywood, and especially in the last few years, I mean, it's always been tough to sell a spec script, but I've noticed a lot of guys in the Writers Guild. I'm in the guild, and you know, we've sold scripts, but even for us that already have agents, it's really hard to get something made, because pretty much there's like maybe 30 writers in town that get all the writing assignments and can maybe set up a pitch or sell a spec script. And I mean, I can't even remember the last time that a spec script was. You've heard of a major spec script sale by a new writer. So pretty much, unless you're already on a studio list, or you're friends with Johnny Depp or something, it's pretty hard to get an original script set up. That's why you see so many of these. A lot of they're remaking everything now. Especially in the horror genre, which I write in primarily. I just get sick of seeing all these, these movie remakes of all the horror films from the '80s, and Saw sequels. Like I think they're up to 6 or 7 now. But whining about Hollywood isn't really going to change it. My new mantra is, rather than fight the system, I say embrace it. So if they want pre-branded material, that's what I'll give them. So that's what kind of drove me to start. Looking into doing a comic book series for my horror script that I originally was going to go out with as a spec, and I decided after talking to my agent and talking to some of my friends that it'd be a longer process to get it made, but it actually has a better chance of getting made if it's as a comic book first.
The difference between a film and a comic is it's all static images. So when you're writing a script for a comic book, every image, you can't have like multiple actions. In a screenplay, you could say, he sits here, he drinks some water, he talks to his friend, and walks out the door. And that could work in like a paragraph in a film, but that would be 4 different panels in a comic book. So you have to really think about if you're transferring a screenplay to a comic, what is really the important thing that I'm trying to tell here, because you're not going to be able to show everything that you said in a screenplay. And you got to make sure an artist will get really pissed off at you if you have people doing multiple actions in the same panel because that aren't physically possible. You know, I punch him, I jump off the table and run out the door. Like that would take a few panels to show me do. And
3.
that's just a really important. Yeah, at least 3. Yeah. But yeah, that's important though, because like artists, one reason that artists are afraid to work with new writers is because they feel that new writers don't actually understand the medium that they're trying to work in. So you owe it to them to really study the medium and know what you're doing when you get into it.
And on that same note, and kind of to go back a little bit before some of what Martin jumped into with looking at the panels and what you're choosing, there's a whole pacing issue to understand for the medium itself. A graphic novel is sort of they're in bookstores, they're on Amazon, it's one of the easiest ways to access comics in the comic book world right now. But a graphic novel is a whole story comes together. But your comic books per se, your loose issues, so those are released monthly, maybe every other month leading up to your graphic novel release. And when you have 22 pages of story to tell, I equate it a bit to like writing a television episode. You've got breaks. You want to leave the reader. You need to move the story along. You need to leave mystery and whatnot set aside, and also be thinking about where is this all going and what is the conclusion. So absolutely, understanding the medium is more than sometimes just looking at it and going, oh, I can do this. A lot of research to do.